Hello, chefs. This is Chef's KSA Podcast. I'm your host, André Natera. On today's episode, we have Chef Dan Kennedy. He's currently the head chef at Pasta Bar in Austin. He's been in the industry for over 20 years, working in Michelin 1- and 2-star restaurants under some great chefs like Noodle Lefebvre, the Voltaggio brothers. This is a really great conversation. I think you'll enjoy it as much as I did. We get into mental health, the importance of sous chefs, social media, content creation. You'll enjoy this episode. Stay tuned. Chef, it's good to see you.
You as well.
So one of the things that I wanted to touch on is, we connected. And for people that don't know, I think you have one of the best social media accounts for content
I
marketers.
appreciate that.
And we talked about this before, but there's a lot of content creators out there, and it's almost saturated on Instagram because you could scroll, and it kind of all looks the same. I personally am not a huge fan of cooking content creation in general when it's a show.
Yeah.
I like it when it's technical and I'm learning something. And it's like, I've never seen that before, or I could appreciate what I'm watching. Boy, that's really skillful. And I like yours. And we talked about this before. People are sleeping if they're not watching what you're doing and noticing the finer details like your knife cuts. You have excellent brunoise, excellent technique. And I love watching it because I'm like, when I first saw it, I was like, holy shit, that's good. Then I stopped, right? And the other thing that I really like about your content is you have good hip hop music on there too. So it's like good technique, good hip hop music. But what got you into content creation?
So first off, thank you. I appreciate that. But what really got me into it, I moved to Austin 2 years ago. And, when I first got here, I had friends who were from here. They were like, Austin's not quick to like welcome, people in and, newcomers, especially if, you're coming in from like an East Coast city being like, look at me. So it was seeing a lot of content creators and like this huge following that everyone has. And, for the most part, just being like, I think I can do that. And it's like, I have good skills that I've accumulated over almost 20 years now. And, I really just wanted to put myself out there. And that's, again, why I do like the hip hop music. Like hip hop's a huge part of my life. Music's a huge part of my life. But just to start like kind of getting my name out there and not being like, as far as coming on the restaurant scene and being like, oh, I have like all this experience and look at me. And like, rather than just doing that, coming in on social media and showing people just who I am and what I'm about whether it's food or music or just whatever. And really just starting to try and get my name out there like that. I think it's a great avenue that, in the past it was just work. And hopefully one day maybe you'll get some recognition. I think social media is great in the sense that you put all the effort out there and like, it's a new avenue for you to get your name out there and just more press.
One of the things for people that don't know, so I like the way that you brunoise, like a pedal by pedal.
Yeah.
And so you do lines, turn it, and then a lot of people don't do that. Where'd you pick up that technique? Because that's a technique that I do as well. And that's the way I would teach my cooks how to do it. And obviously it got passed down to me by other chefs as well. So when I do it that way for the first time and I show people that have never seen it, they're like, I've never seen that before. And you can't go back.
No.
It's hard to go back when you know how to do it that way. So I'm curious.
So I was working in a restaurant in Philly. I was working for a chef named Justin Bogle, and one of his sous chefs, Joseph Fabrices, he's a G in the kitchen, and he was watching me like do the traditional brunoise one day, and he's like, "You should do it like this." He's like, "It's going to be way better, way consistent." And, at first I was like, oh, I'm a good cook. I don't need to change the way I do things. And then all of a sudden I kept looking and I was like, it's perfect. It's consistent. And like, when you're cooking at like that certain of a level, he was a 2 Michelin starred chef at, a certain point in his career. So, obviously I wanted to work for those types of chefs and I wanted to be like that. So just seeing that, I was like, it is perfect. It is consistent. And it's okay to like say like the way I was doing it isn't the best way to do it. So yeah, like you said, like once you start doing it, there's no going back. I remember one time, my first sous chef job, I was making pomodoro and I was cutting onions that way, broiling them perfectly. And one of the cooks is like, "Why are you doing that?" He's like, "You're just gonna blend it." And I'm like, "Because I know I did it the right way. Like that's just it's for me to know that like I'm doing everything perfectly and consistently throughout the whole process."
What's really good about your videos is that you are showing exceptional technique. The dishes that you're putting up when you put an Instagram reel or something like that, are these dishes that you serve in the restaurant?
I've done a couple where it's like versions, like pasta bar light dishes.
Yeah.
I mean, one of our regulars at the restaurant jokes with me all the time because I just have like a very cheap, like small blender, and he's like, "You love the small blenders," and I mean that's another thing too, where it's like you get a decent sized following, and people think like, "Oh yeah, like why don't you have like all this?" And it's like all that is like money coming out of my pocket, so it's like
Right.
I don't have all the equipment that like a restaurant does, so like I just get like small blenders or whatever I can get like on my own budget, and just make it do. So there are some dishes on my social media that are versions of the restaurant dishes, but no, definitely the restaurant dishes are definitely more intricate and technical and, you know, a lot more behind it for sure.
Well, a lot of people will say, why don't I do cooking content? I was like, well, here's why I don't. This is why I respect what you do. It's because when I bought my house that I live in currently, I specifically chose it for the kitchen because I thought I would go in there and create cooking content. There's some things I don't like I would like to have the stove in a different location, but whatever. And I did a couple of videos that no one ever saw. And I went to the store. I went to, Central Market or Whole Foods. I spent a couple $100s on whatever I needed to cook. And then I had to set up. And then I realized I'm missing this one thing, right? I don't have this one spice or this one whatever, right? And then you're cooking and you're editing. And then it's taken me, let's just say 4 hours out of my day just to do that one video.
Just to shoot it.
That's going to last, a minute and a half or whatever. And then after that, I'm like, and then I just turn on the camera and I talk some shit and I get the same amount of views.
Yeah.
We're just talking. So I was like, this is a lower barrier to entry
sure.
for me to get the same amount
For sure.
of what I do with Chef's PSA since it's talking. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll just, and I also recognize that other people do it really well.
Mm-hmm.
There's content creators out there like yourself. And there's a lot of other people that I don't necessarily like what they're cooking, but I also think that they got the gimmick down.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I never knock the hustle.
Yeah.
There's definitely people out there that I've noticed. I'm like, oh, they have really good technique. Like they're good cooks. I think the word chef gets thrown around a little too loose. To me, a chef is a leader, someone who runs a kitchen and, all that kind of stuff. So, at the end of the day, like when it comes to stuff like that, like more often than not, I still consider myself a cook.
Yeah.
So I just look to see if people can cook, and some people on social media do a really good job with it.
Yeah.
Some people are just creating a character, and I think, I mean, cooking and chefs and like all that, it's like the hot thing now. It's the chef tables and like all that kind of stuff. So I think you see some people that jump on the bandwagon and just have a character or a shtick and they jump on, and good for them. Like, again, I don't want to knock the hustle. But one of the things that I get DMs a good amount of the times where, people are like, how do I learn like you? And like, how do I do this and that? And it's, there's people that just blow up like that. And like, that is good for them. And it's like, but for me, it's like, I've been doing this for a good amount of time. And like, I just happened to decide like, oh, let me just start making videos. So like, when people are like, how do I learn how to do this? It's like, you gotta like, if you want to do what I do, like you gotta eat shit for a long time. Like it's really just like diving into the craft and falling in love with it.
Right. Well, I think what you do is really interesting because there's a couple of people I think that that I admire and I follow because I like how they cook and I like that they're educating people on certain things. Ron McKinley is one. I think he does a great job.
He's a G.
He's total G. Plus, he likes good music too.
He does.
Jules, right? He also shows great technique. And I like those guys because it's like, okay, they're showing high level technique and they're doing it right. You as well. And then there's a lot of people that's like, okay, they know how to cook. And I'm going to use air quotes. They know how to cook, but it's not high level.
Yeah.
It's not anything that I don't know how to do myself, or I'm not seeing a new technique that I mean, every now and again, you're going to see something like they put I don't know, they put a grilled cheese, and instead of doing cheese, they use something weird. It's like, okay, I might see something like that I've never seen before, a new ingredient or a new combination, but I didn't learn anything at my level. When I watch you guys, it's like, oh, I didn't know that. That's a good little tip. Or, you did, I don't remember what you did, but you had the zucchini on the plate, and I was like, okay, I like how you did something on there. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, I like that. I liked when you were cutting the brunoise fennel and the brunoise onions, and it's like, okay, I like what he's doing here. So when I see that, it's like, okay, it has my attention. But when I see that other stuff, here's a little secret. People do. I've blocked a lot of content creators that they don't have any idea that I blocked them. I can't watch their shit. Like, it's like, I've had enough. I don't need to see you make another grilled cheese sandwich.
Exactly.
I don't need to hear you scrape the bread.
Oh, I hate that one.
I don't need to see the cheese pull. I get it. So I want to see that. It's like, I don't need to see that shit. But I think your stuff is great. I think that if people want to learn, I encourage people, like, hey, if you want to learn how to cook, there's certain chefs that you should watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like just following a content creator just because they got 1 million followers or whatever, is not necessarily going to make you better. Those people are great at entertaining. Like you said, I can't knock their hustle. They're great entertainers. They know how to ASMR and get the right mic and the right zoom and all that. I respect that. But watch your shit. Watch Ron McKill. Like, you're going to learn something new. You're going to see something that you haven't seen before. Something else that a lot of people don't understand about this world that we're in is that you got a lot of these content creators that get picked up by management groups, and then all of a sudden it's like, you don't have enough followers, we're going to get you another 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't realize, like, a lot of those followers are not real followers. I was talking with and I'm sharing behind the scenes secrets, but I was talking with a sponsor for Chef's PSA, and we were talking. It's like, well, you don't have enough people following you to what they think a lot of followers are. And I was like, well, but all mine are real chefs. They're real people. And they're like, well, if you had 200,000, I said, I can have 200,000 tomorrow if I want.
Yeah.
You understand that? Like, I could just go and get an app that says, give me $1,000 and I'm going to give you 200,000 followers. Like, I could do that, but I'm not going to do that because that actually doesn't help me spread the word of what I'm trying to do with
Exactly.
PSA.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. That was just a rant.
Going
nowhere with it.
No, I mean, it's something that, I have a lot of people that, when you're doing this full time, or, why don't you do more videos and all that? But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I'm still an active chef. Like, I run a restaurant, and that is my full-time job. And, this social media stuff I do it on on my weekends. So,
right.
It's choosing to take 4 hours out of one of my days off to film it, and then another several hours to edit it. And it's taxing. I mean, and, my chef job is taxing as well. It's, I'm trying to cook at a high level, and, on my weekends, I'm pretty exhausted. But, again, it's something that's important to me to just, like, maintain who I am and what I'm about, and, do it on my own time, because at the end of the day, like, I still want to cook at a high level, and, cooking in kitchens is still my main focus.
And I think that's why I would tell people to watch your videos and follow you, is because you're really doing it at the same time that you're showing people exactly what it is that you're doing. Like, if you want to learn someone that's in the game right now, performing at a high level and showing you exactly, like, no secrets, I'd say, go look here. Right. That's where the gold is. Don't worry about the cheese pull. The cheese pull is going to still be there. Don't worry.
I'll give it. Sometimes I see some stuff and I'm like, that looks delicious. Like, they not have learned anything, but I'm like, I want to eat that.
Right. I agree with you. Have you seen Fancy Chef 2013?
Yo, he is the man. I love him.
Do you?
I love him.
Do you think he's trolling us?
I don't know. I think that's why I love him so much. There's some videos where I'm like, I think this guy's, like, serious, and, like, but then there's some videos I'm like, nah, he's got to be fucking with us. He's got to be pulling everyone's leg. And there's, like, I just don't know. He's like a complete enigma.
I agree. Sometimes I see things that make me think he's trolling us.
Yeah.
And then I see other things like, no, he's not.
Like, there's videos where he still has, like, the tag on, like, the champagne flutes or whatever. And it's like, bro, that's on there. Like,
right. And he turns it to the camera.
Yeah.
Did you see the one where he dropped the lemon and it missed the glass? And like he's like trying to place it in the glass, and then he drops it, and then it hits the table. It's like beautiful and nice.
I love where he went on a podcast and he said, like, I wanted him to cook sea bass, and he's like, oh, I don't cook seafood. And then like after that came out, like all of a sudden all you see him cook is sea. It's just like he's a genius. It's like it's brilliant content.
I was watching one of his things, and he's like, I'm making shrimp chicken Alfredo, but it was like shrimp Alfredo. But he said shrimp
chicken Alfredo.
So he put a video up because, he gives out his phone, call me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He has...
Only if you're rich, only if you live in a castle.
Only castles, right? But he has a little thing on there that I noticed that he put up the other day. Is like $1,000 book me to promote your whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, I wonder if people are calling him. So a couple of days go by, I see him. He's at, I want to say it's Gino's in Philly.
Yeah, he was at Philly recently. Yeah, I saw the
video?
Philly. Yeah.
Did you see him grab the sandwich and say, this is trash?
Yeah.
Throw it on the floor.
Yeah, and those dudes, being from Philly, like, those dudes don't fuck around. Like, that was brave.
That's what I thought. I was like, was that a skit?
I don't know.
Or is he just...
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, is he trying to flex that he's the chef? Or was that a skit? And if it was a skit, it's a brilliant skit.
It's a brilliant skit. If not, like...
Watch your back.
That's some balls. Like I said, like those South Philly boys, like they don't mess around.
Yeah. Who had the best Philly when you were over
there? Man, I really like a place in North Philly called Joe's. Angelo's is really good. Del Sandro's is really good. I got, everyone always asks Pat's and Gino's. It's like they're usually like the touristy ones to go to. It's worth, going. Like they're still fun. They're right across the street from each other. You can throw a rock and hit the other one. So I know a lot of people that'd be like, oh, we went to Gino's and then we went right over to Pat's, and it's fun. But yeah, I would say those three are like the top tier: Del Sandro's, Angelo's, and Joe's.
What for you? What's a proper sandwich? Proper Philly?
Proper cheesesteak, provolone with fried onions. That's the jargon, if you will. And then I always get like the pickled cherry peppers on the side, just like snack on. I'm very simplistic. There's a lot of people that do ketchup, and I don't do the peppers or the mushrooms or all that. I'm just very simplistic. Give me the steak and the cheese, and like that's it.
So I know one of the things that we spoke about last time was kitchen culture, and everything that I do with Chef's PSA in general is trying to improve kitchen culture, but not with kid gloves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think that when a lot of people talk about toxic kitchens, and they ask me, well, about the old days. I said the old days weren't all bad.
No.
And I think we threw the baby out with the bathwater. We should have just kept, but we threw the baby too. Like, keep the baby.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We just need to get rid of the bathwater. There were some things that needed to stay, but I know you're passionate about this. If you had like a magic wand and you're trying to fix kitchen culture across the board, what are some things that are missing right now?
For me, I would say just intensity.
Yeah.
Overall, definitely like coming up in kitchens. I was always in like high level intensity kitchens where everyone was just heads down, and like, we have a job to do and we need to do it at the best of our abilities, and we need to do it as fast as possible. It's something you posted of Marco Pierre White, where he's just like, service is service, and like the please and the thank yous go out the window. Like, we have a job to do. We have guests coming in that are spending a lot of money depending on the restaurant. My current restaurant being one of them, and they expect great food, not just great food, but like great hospitality, great, service, great wine pairings, great cocktails, all the above. And I think there's an obligation on our part to, be intense about it and be stressed out about it, that we're going to deliver that. We have to be consistent every single day. Our restaurant we do 3 services a night. We're a 10 seat chef's counter. So we have 3 seatings, and we talk about it in nauseum. We have to be consistent. We have to be as good at the 5 o'clock seating on Tuesday as we are at the 9:30 seating on Saturday. And there's no fail in between. So, I think with that, it's, like you said, we shouldn't have thrown the baby out. There definitely needed to be some correction in kitchens. In my younger chef days, I was 100% guilty of like running toxic kitchens. I was like that chef that would scream and yell and curse at people and like not even care and not even flinch. And, I think as chefs, it's important to like, remember, we still need to talk to everyone like we're human beings and treat each other as such. But, um, I've always loved the intensity of kitchens. I've always loved it. It's something I've always thrived off of.
At what point, so you said you used to be the chef that was the intense, toxic chef. At what point did you realize that that is not the way and you had to start readjusting to a new style? And how did you do that?
So when the world changed a bit and I was unemployed for several months, I just had a lot of time to think. And, I think it was one of those things where it didn't excuse it, but I always ran kitchens the way the chefs I worked under ran kitchens. So I just like did what I learned. And just looking back, I was like, I hated like the way that like certain chefs would talk to me. And like that scene, and I always reference the scene in The Bear when he's like at his stove and he's like sleepwalking and he's like having the flashback of the chef like whispering in his ear, like all that mean shit. Like that gave me like PTSD because it's like I worked in kitchens where like chefs would fucking they'd get personal. Like they would get personal with me and be like, why are you wasting your time? You're wasting my time. You suck at this. You're no good. Like, and I turned into that and I had time to reflect of like, I hated that, but why am I doing that? Why do I think it's okay to do that? So, when I got back into kitchens, I think to a degree I overcorrected a bit and all of a sudden,
What do you mean? What do you mean you overcorrected?
I think I lost a little bit of an edge that, needed to be had. I think it's important to, again, to talk to people, like they're human beings, like I said, but it's something my sous chef at the current restaurant just said recently. He's just like, you're really good because you've got like a dial where you can like turn the intensity up and then you know when to back off. And I think I lost that for a while where I just kind of had the dial turned down and it was just like, oh, it's okay. And I was allowing things that I usually wouldn't allow. And whether it was just, the food wasn't as perfect as it should be, or, people were just kind of lax throughout the day. People weren't ready for service and not set up fully. Just things that I usually coming up in kitchens and running kitchens would never allow. So, it just took me a while to like get to a point where I did have that dial of like, I can turn it up and then like 2 seconds later, I'm turning it back down. And then rather than still screaming at the cook, it's sitting there and calmly talking to him, be like, okay, like this is why I said what I said. Like, this is nothing personal. We just have to do this in this way or in this manner because it's what the job requires.
It's interesting that you say that. I went through a similar phase where, I realized, okay, there's some errors in how I'm running the kitchen. I needed to correct it. And it took me I started correcting it, but it took me about 4 years.
It takes a while.
Like it didn't just happen overnight. It took me several years to start working on correcting it. Towards the end, when I finally feel like, okay, I finally have it. And one of the things that helped me out a lot was I learned how to get the exact same thing done, speaking calmly as I did speaking, with intensity.
Yeah,
Anger,
exactly.
right? So it's like I realized that it didn't. There was a certain level of intensity there. It was a quiet intensity.
Yeah.
It was a stoic, like Paulie from Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Just as scary as Joe Pesci's character, right?
Yeah.
Like, one was just big and intense, the other one was loud and intense.
Loud and
right?
screaming and yelling.
So I figured out another way to make sure that people were doing it without being mean. It was like, this is the way it is. And that's it.
Yeah.
Ice cold stare.
Yeah.
Right. Like they knew I meant business. But something happened to me where when I was a young chef, when I was an intense chef, I remember watching one of my sous chefs really get on one of the cooks. And this sous chef in particular was like the nicest person in the world. Like I used to like they're too nice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then one day I just saw them getting on one of the cooks and it made me uncomfortable. Like I was like, "Ugh, this is hard for me to watch."
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh, that's how I am. Right. Like the light bulb went off. It's like, they're not naturally like that. They're like that because
I'm like that. Yeah.
and that's when I was like, I got to fix this.
Yeah.
Right. Because I was watching. I was like, I don't like watching someone treat people that way.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, but they're doing it because that's how I'm.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, shit. I was doing it without even realizing I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Like I just thought this is the way kitchens are.
Yeah.
You got to be focused, wait and ready. Like, let's go. So it took me some time. Like I said, it took me time. It didn't happen overnight. But once I recognized there was a problem, it's like, okay, let's start correcting it and moving it in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's that trickle down effect. Like it's the chain of command where it's like the chef yells at you when you're the sous chef, and it's like I can't yell at the chef, so I'm going to yell at the junior sous. I'm going to yell at the chef de partie, and then it just trickles down, and then all of a sudden the chef de partie is like yelling at the commis that way, and it's just like then you just create this toxic culture, and it's not fun.
So how do you build your culture now? Like what are some things that you've implemented now to make sure that it doesn't turn into that?
So for me, I worked in a restaurant group where we had a lot of sit downs, like one-on-one sit downs. Where I was just checking in on people, just like, how you doing? How you feeling? And letting people voice their opinions and voice their concerns. I think it's important that we kind of break the stigma of I'm the chef, do it and shut the fuck up type thing. Like we said, like there's times in service where it's like, hey, do this now. Like you don't have time to talk about it now. We can talk about it after service. But I think it's important to like cut out some time and like talk to everyone on an individual level. How are you doing? This is the reason, maybe I spoke to you in this way, or, I'm getting on you for these things. I need to see this out of you, but also at the same time, what do you need out of me? What do you need out of me as a leader, as a mentor? Because it's important to let everyone have a voice. There's so many times in the kitchen where there is one voice, but I think there's room for creating everyone to have their own. I also think I've always kind of worked this way in kitchens. I also think it's important to just lead by example. And I always kind of get not in trouble, but I've had several bosses tell me like, you have a lot of opportunity in the admin side of things, because I'm just a cook. Like I just always want to be in the kitchen. I always want to be shoulder to shoulder with the team and like just like prepping and like, so it's always important with me to like be in the kitchen with everyone and like head down and like show them like I'm focused on the job, so I need you to be focused on the job too. And just creating that push and that, intensity throughout the day in that way.
Do you think as people are now coming into the kitchen and it's I don't want to say it's a different generation. I don't mean that's bad or good, but it is a different generation where before people were coming into the kitchen, it's like they wanted to be chefs. And this is what I want to do and I want your job. Where now it's different, and not everyone, but a lot of people come into the kitchen and they might say, I'm just here to learn how to cook so I could then go into something else where maybe I could write about food, or I could create a social channel, or I want to start my TikTok, but I need to learn how to cook in order to do that.
For sure.
So they're not necessarily in it for the same reasons that people were in it 10, 15 years ago. So have you come across that, number one? And then when you get people like that work for you, if someone's coming to you and interviewing and say, hey, I'm just here to learn, but I really want to be the next, Gordon Ramsay MasterChef contestant, is that a deterrent for you to hire them?
It depends on the restaurant for me. I think at the restaurant I'm currently at now, we have such a small team that, it's one of those things where I get to kind of be very nitpicky on who I bring onto the team. But more often than not, no. It's one of those things where it's like, I just want your best every single day. And I always tell people like, your best is going to be different every day. We're human beings. Things happen on the outside of these four walls of a restaurant. So all I ask is you give me your best every single day. If you come in and you're trying your hardest and you're working like to the mat, if you're squeezing all the juice out of it every single day and you don't feel like you could have done anything more, like who am I to like not give you that opportunity? I didn't go to culinary school. I was that kid who sent my resume off to every single restaurant in every single city I moved to. I remember one of my first like really intense cooking jobs, I sent my resume to the chef de cuisine every day for like 2 weeks until he was finally like, holy shit, like you can come and stage, like stop emailing me. And I was an idiot. Like I didn't know what I was doing. But I tried to work harder than everyone in the kitchen. Yeah. Everyone in the kitchen. And I always had the mentality every day. I was like, I'm going to get fired today. Like I suck. Like I'm going to get fired. And I'm not saying everyone should think that way. That's how I think. But I just ask people to give me their best. And if, at the end of the day, like I've turned to people, I'm like, if you want to be, a car salesman down the road, who am I to stop? But like, while you're here with me, I need you to be your best. I need you to give everything every single day.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you said is you talk about you're in a smaller kitchen right now. How many people are working with you in the kitchen?
In the kitchen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and one of them's an AM person.
So 5
just
for
prep.
5 for dinner.
Yep.
1 person in the morning.
Yep.
So because it's a smaller kitchen, and this is something that I think a lot of cooks don't understand, is everything's valuable real estate. If you only have 6 people on your team plus you, or is that including you?
I'm the 6th.
So 5 plus you.
Yeah.
Valuable real estate. Everyone has to be good. And one of the challenges I think people, maybe they're graduating from culinary school or they're a green cook and they want to jump into your kitchen. It's probably not the right kitchen for you to start up, because everyone needs. I only have this one position.
Yeah.
I need a gangster.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're not there yet, go maybe Joel. There's great restaurants that are a little bit bigger.
Yep.
That could absorb some of the I don't want to say unskilled, but
you need to get the feel for it.
Right.
Like you need to, like, I used to work with a guy. We used to be like, before service, we'd like fist bump, be like, let's dance.
Yeah.
And you need to get that like ballet choreographed like footwork down with it. It's important.
It's so funny. Like this is one of my pet peeves. I'll go on a rant. But when you work with someone like me as a chef, it's different when you're cooking with the chef and you're the sous chef cooking with the chef versus you're the chef and you're cooking with the sous chef.
Yeah.
Right. So me, I'm the chef. Everything's coming to the pass. Spoon. Right. I hand it back. Sous chef's putting in the bain marie. Like, where's my plate wipe?
Yeah.
Boom. It's right there. Right.
Garnish.
What I'm thinking about. Right.
Yeah.
You have this cadence that you could work with someone, that sous chef. And if you're the sous chef, maybe you're just handing chef, here's your next step for the plate.
Exactly.
Right. If you're the chef, it's where's my spoon?
Where is it?
Yeah. And when you work with someone that doesn't have that flow with you, and you're like, why are you giving me the deli with the lid on it?
Yeah.
Take the lid off.
Take
the lid off before you hand it to me, because I don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
Right. My other hand has this. I need you to do that. But it's funny because I remember I talked about that one time. I was like, what's your biggest pet peeve? I said, when I'm plating and someone hands me a deli with the lid on it. That's my biggest pet peeve.
I hate that.
And people didn't understand why. And it's like, if you don't understand why, it's because you haven't been at that level in that situation.
Yeah.
But if you've been at that level in that situation, you'll understand why there's nothing more frustrating than you're in complete focus on the plate right in front of you, and every movement has a purpose. And then it's this pattern disruption.
It's such a pattern disruption, and it needs to be so synchronized.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it's why you see a lot of restaurants with like those blue signs, and like you saw it in the Bear where it's like every second counts, or like sense of urgency, or like all that, because it's so true. And especially when you're cooking at a high level, like more often than not, like you're putting a protein on a plate, and by the time it gets to the guest, like it can be cold. Right. And so it's like, I need it now, and I need that sauce to be hot, but it's also like, I need it in the order that I asked for it. And I don't have time to take a lid off a deli. I don't have time to unwrap something. That means you're not ready for service, in my opinion.
Right.
And so it's just that absolute synchronization, and it takes time.
Right.
It takes time.
Right. So it's like, if you're going, and for people that are listening, this is something that you could do. I'm just making up a dish, but let's just say it's sauce and then herbs, and then maybe a little drizzle of olive oil, and then fleur de sel or whatever.
Right.
So it's like, okay, my next step is sauce. The sous chef, here's your sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Take it back. Here's your herb garnet, like it's already on a tray, right? With a little, here's that. Then you take it back. Here's your olive oil, right? If you're just, okay, take it back. Here's your fleur de sel. So it's like, they know exactly what order I'm putting the steps on the plate.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's such a key skill that I think people don't understand.
No, 100%. And it's important to like not even just with that one plate. It's something like I always say too. It's like you're done plating. It's like clear the pass, wipe the pass. Let's go next plates. And it's nonstop. It's why it's like cooking in general is exhausting because you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you're trying to be consistent about it. And yeah, it just takes time, and it takes time to get that feel down in kitchens. But then, like you were saying too, specifically, like I just recently hired my sous chef. He's still learning how I like things, and I'm sitting there being like, chef, I need you to do this and no other way, okay? And he's very receptive. He's really, really talented. But it's just, it takes him time to know what I like and how I like things done, and
Right.
in the order I like them done. So, no, it's a meat grinder for sure.
It's funny. There's those signals. Like you've worked with someone for a long time. They pass you the tray of meat. It's cold.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say. You just and they, yes, chef.
Yeah.
Right. Like they don't even. You didn't even say it was cold.
It's like, chef, and they look back and you're just like this, and they're like, yes, chef.
Yeah, right. And it's done. Like, let me
Yeah.
reheat the meat or,
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, it's something beautiful. I think when a chef, and I've had a few sous chefs that I've worked with that, you know, I love working with them because they know exactly what I'm good at, and they also know what I'm not good at.
Yeah.
Like they know I have a bad back. I can't bend down and pick up plates.
Yeah.
So they're like, chef, your next 2 plates. Here you go.
Yeah.
Right. So they know I'm not going to do that. There's like, shout out to all the sous chefs out there that
It's the
care-
shittiest job in the kitchen. I always tell people that because you are at the beck and call of the chef, and once you figure out like
Mhm.
the likes and the dislikes, like you're there to like fill in any gap for them, but then you're also overseeing the entirety of the kitchen. So like when the chef comes in the kitchen and the sous chef might be over there, and the chef is like seeing mise en place that's wrong, all of a sudden you're getting your head ripped off because you're not paying attention to everyone in the kitchen. Then you're doing orders. Sous chefs, shout out to all the sous chefs.
Shout out to this. It's a tough job.
It is.
And there's good sous chefs out there that the best sous chefs make their chef look good.
100%.
Like those are the
100%.
best chefs.
Yeah.
And you go up to them. It's like people would ask me like, how do I deal with it when my chef comes up to me? It's like, if your chef comes up to you, and let's just say you have some mise en place, and it's like, okay, you have radishes and chives and, you know, some herbs and whatever. And it's like, you come up and it's like, I know the radishes are wrong. And if I go up to you and say, hey, the radishes are wrong, and you're like, you got all these excuses, well, then guess what? Your chives are wrong now.
Yeah.
And your herbs are wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep going down the line
Exactly.
because you have it. But if the answer is, chef, let me correct that right away. I'm going to leave you alone. You got it. Chef, I apologize. I know they're wrong. I'm fixing them right now. Great. I'm going to leave you alone. But no, chef, you know, the last guy that came in, he didn't leave me set up, and I never cut. And no, now it's everything.
Now it's everything. And even like, if it's like, chef, I'm going to fix this, even if there's like some chives that it's like, rather than like do this again, it's like, hey, chef, like some of these aren't, just be better next time. Like, let's tighten this up rather than, but like, yeah, once it's all the excuses, it's like, cool, now you're just doing everything again. Because I just don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, you'll learn like how
Real quick.
Yeah,
real quick.
Yeah. So a lot of people, when they're building their culture, especially nowadays in the kitchen, which I think is one of the positive aspects when we talk about the new, like people say, the new way of running kitchens. One of the big positive aspects that I think was missing in the old way of running kitchen is health and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
How do you approach mental health and wellness, not only in your day-to-day, but also for your team?
So in my day-to-day, I mean, it's important for me. I'm pretty vocal about it in my kitchen, just because I want everyone to know my struggles and what I go through with. I deal with depression and anxiety at a pretty high level, and there's days where it gets me and it eats me alive. And you know, it's a tough industry, and you know, failures and, you know, missteps and mistakes can lead down a dark path. And also the intensity of kitchens and like not working in the right cultures, or just working for a chef that's really intense but doesn't like toe the line of like, I'm still gonna like care about you and like talk to you. I've had a lot of friends that like I've had very serious conversations with me of like harming themselves. And you know, it's very important to remember that we're all human beings, that, everyone's different and everyone has different struggles. So for me, I think the biggest one that I started with, is I stopped drinking about 3 years ago now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And for me, it wasn't so much I had a substance abuse issue. I mean, maybe I did. I was a typical, like, in my 20s, like, you work your ass off and then, like, shifts over the weekend and then you just get blackout drunk and, like, your weekend is just drinking. But for me, just knowing that I deal with mental health issues, drinking was, like, the easiest one to be like, just cut that out and, like, not have that thing that adds on to it. But then also staying physically active and, just trying to keep the body moving. When I first moved here 2 years ago, shout out Philip Spear, with the Commodore Run Club, and, everything that, like, he's done. And a lot of restaurants have done that too. I remember when, I was still living on the East Coast and heard about him, where it's like the post shift, I think was what he said. And it's like, hey, rather than, like, going out to the bar, like, let's go on a run. Let's do something healthy for our mental, because the kitchen's hard enough on it.
And he's taken that outside of Austin too. I mean,
Oh,
he
100%.
was in Houston the other
He was in
day.
Houston, and he's done it in New York and Portland.
Yeah.
So, I think I've always looked at the kitchen and cooking as a sport. I played sports when I was younger. And I think it's important to condition your mind and your body to it. One, it's easy your body to break down like that, but to get your mind in a good spot, so that you don't go down those rabbit holes. I go to therapy, and it helps me just to talk to someone. And I'm a very self-deprecating person by nature. When failures come across my plate, no pun intended, it's easy for me to look at myself in a way as, like, you suck, and, like, how could you not, like, do that for the right way or anything like that, when I just need to have the grace. And, talking to a professional is like, give yourself some grace. Like, you have a high intense, stressful job, and you're human. You're going to make mistakes. And, rather than being like, you idiot, like, identify what happened and what went wrong or how you could be better and use that to, like, propel you in the next step.
Do you do anything for yourself, like whether it's your own internal monologue or anything like that, when you have a bad day, like, and you catch yourself going into a dark place? Is there something that you do for yourself to prevent it from getting worse?
Going on a run helps a lot.
Yeah.
Like, just getting my mind, like, my mind's constantly racing. It's just always, like, overthinking and doing all that. So when I go on runs, it tends to, like, just stop it.
I want to ask why, because it seems that I know a lot of people that will say the exact. I'm not a runner.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like the runner's high. You just
Exactly.
Now?
You zone out. For me, I don't know how everyone else feels, but for me personally, it's like, I fell in love with running because I fucking hated it. I was like, I hate it. And it was one of those things where it was like, I love to hate it. And you get that runner's high where, like, at the beginning of the run, you might be thinking, like, oh, I can't wait till this is over. And then for me, it's like, so I can start thinking about, like, work again or whatever. And then you just get to a point, especially, like, I listen to music when I run, but there's times where I don't, because then it's just like, you just think about the run. And it's just like the very simplistic mindset of, like, one foot in front of the other and just, like, go from there. And I try and take that, like, mindset of, when things come across, like, in a bad way, and it's just like, just one foot in front of the other. Like, something bad happened. Cool. What's the next step? Don't think about, 5 steps back or, like, what's 10 steps ahead. Just like, all right, well, what's the next step? What's the step to correct it?
So you mentioned that you stopped drinking, you go to therapy, and you run. Have you noticed a significant improvement in your ability to lead a kitchen and be a chef since you've implemented that?
For sure. It helps me think clearer. It gets rid of the fogginess and the haze and the, especially the drinking, the hangovers and, like, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But the running for sure. If I, I haven't been as consistent as I would have liked to be as of late. But, if I start my day off with a run, it's one of those things where it's like start your day off with something difficult and then everything else is just going to be easy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have anything else in your routine that you do to make sure that you are in order?
Again, I haven't been like as consistent as I would like to be, but I work for a restaurant group where, you know, there was this huge emphasis on like Google calendars, and it was like just planning your entire day out like a prep list. And they're like talking about it. It's like when you're a cook, like you have your prep list written out, and you have every single. As a cook, I would always be like, I would write times on my like prep tasks and be like, all right, I'm starting this at noon. It needs to be done by 12:30, and this and this and this. And they're like, you need to do that same mentality with like your entire life. So it's like, what time are you waking up? What time are you, drinking a cup of coffee? Like, if I like break down my day to day like that, it just takes away the like uncertainty I have at times, or like the anxiety of like, oh, I'm not doing this right now. I should be doing this. When I have something written down in concrete, it's like, cool, now I have to do this. Once I'm done that, I go into this and then just go from there.
Mm-hmm. I'll ask you this. Arguably one of the best restaurants in Austin is where you're at, Pasta Bar.
I appreciate that.
And on top of that, you personally have put a lot of pressure on yourself to be great. You've worked in great kitchens, you've worked under great chefs, and what you're doing right now currently is pursuing the path of greatness, right? The path of greater resistance. Knowing that you've put so much pressure on yourself, how do you personally deal with it? Knowing that you're trying to balance these two things of making sure that you are focusing on your own mental health and well-being, but you're also pursuing greatness. How do you balance that? And how hard is it to balance it?
It's hard.
It's the hardest thing.
It's hard. It's really hard. Because I have days where it's just like, you question it at times. I firmly believe if you don't question like yourself every now and then, you're not trying hard enough, or you're not, striving hard enough. And, maybe that's just my mentality. And, I'm not saying that's one size fits all type thing. But I'm a firm believer of getting outside your comfort zone, and you grow exponentially because of that. And I think that goes with, my mental health as well. It's helped me to really learn my cues on, when my anxiety is ramping up. And then when my anxiety goes up, I tend to procrastinate things. And then when I procrastinate things, I get depressed because I didn't do the thing. So it's taught me to like learn all the cues. And yeah, I think a big one for me is like, I tend to doom scroll. When my anxiety gets up, I get on social media and I'm just like sitting there on my phone and I'm just like looking at nothing.
Right.
So like I've caught that, and it's like I've gotten to a point where like I set limitations on my phone of like I'm only allowed X amount of minutes on like social media per day. Between the hours of 3 p.m. and midnight, when like we're getting ready for service and when service is over, like my phone's locked except for my text messages, emails, and phone. So it's hard. It's definitely hard to balance, but it's, again, gotten me outside of my comfort zone of, still striving to be the best. Like,
Yeah.
And at the same time, like managing that with my mental health, but finding the cues that help me get stronger on that side of things.
So, $1 million question. And I would ask you this because this is what people ask me all the time. Is it worth it?
For me, yes.
Yeah.
For me, yes. But that's a great question, because anytime someone asks me or tells me like, hey, I want to be a chef, I want to cook, one of the first things I always say to them is like, you need to think about it. You need to really make sure you love this. Like, you love this, because my story isn't different than anyone that I've worked with. Like, I know plenty of people that have, but like, I traveled all over the country. I slept on floors. I slept on couches, like of like friends' house, not even like my own house. Like I was technically like homeless. Um, I lost friends along the way. I missed, family functions, celebrations, like all that thing in order to like perfect my craft because I love it. Like I firmly believe I've been put on this earth to cook food and cook it at a high level. So for me, yes, it's worth it. But I always tell everyone that tells me they want to be a chef, like you need to do some soul searching and make sure this is what you love.
Do you ever experience burnout in the kitchen?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Like burnout from like, I don't want to do this anymore.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've definitely had those moments of like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I kind of like have internal conversations with myself. It's like, all right, what else would you do? You know, down the road, I think I'm doing things right now to like set myself up for like years down the road to like pivot. But right here, right now, like there's nothing else I would want to do. For me, the burnout is just like, I need a break or I need to change something or, or maybe I just need a new job. And, I've definitely had jobs where it's just like, I'm just burnt out and I need to go. And it's a conversation I had with a cook not too long ago where, I would just watch him every single day. And it was just like, man, this looks like it's a chore for you. Like, this looks like it's like legitimate work for you. And I had a sit down conversation with him and it's like, you're not running the station. The station's running you. Like it is running you into the ground. And I was like, I've been there before as a cook, as a chef, as a sous chef. And, for me, that was always kind of like a signal that like, maybe it's time to move on. So I think sometimes it's just a shakeup and it's a new job. Sometimes it's just, you need to take a break.
Mm-hmm. Do you find, when you're in that flow state in the kitchen, you're creative, you're working with a good team, you could work all the hours in the world, but not get burned out. But then you flip that script and it's like you're around people you don't like the chef, you're not making the food that you enjoy making, burn out after 5 hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a certain joy aspect to that also leads to burnout.
100%.
And I think that's something that people don't talk about enough is like, first question is, I would ask people is like, when they say I'm burned out, my question is, do you like your job?
Yeah.
Like, let's start there.
Yeah. Let's start there.
Do you like your job? No. Well, then that.
Yeah. And it's, it's the perfect example. It's the job I'm currently at Pasta Bar. Like every time a candidate comes in, my very first thing to them is like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was like, these are long days and late nights.
Yeah.
Like we are here till like 1:30 in the morning sometimes. And I just want to let you know that because sometimes that is a deal breaker for people. And so I think if you are in the right situation, like the hours and like all that don't bother you because, sure, like on my weekends, like I'm exhausted and my wife's like, I'm gonna let you sleep because you're a little tired, but like, I just love what I'm doing.
You know what's interesting? I've experienced this in my personal career, and I'm curious if anyone else has, but I've definitely noticed it in patterns of my career. When you're pushing for greatness and you're getting close to it, the burnout hasn't happened yet. When you achieve that goal, whether it's an award, a star, whatever, when you get there and you're on this high, the burnout typically happens after that.
100%.
It doesn't happen on the
100%.
climb up. It happens when you hit the goal and then you're just past it. And then a lot of times it's like, now I achieved what I wanted. Now I'm starting to feel that burnout.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's a conversation, I've had to have with myself, my direct supervisors, direct boss, the corporate chef has had with me. As a young chef, I definitely was like, oh, I want to cook for awards and Michelin stars and James Beard awards and like, rising star chefs and like all that kind of stuff. But, I've missed out on all the awards. I've missed out on the star chef rising star. I missed out on a Michelin star. I've missed out on things. So it's realizing that we're not in the business of awards and accolades. We're in the business of making people happy. And I think that also is internal. It's like, I'm pushing myself to be the best I can be every single day, but I'm also pushing to make this restaurant the best it possibly can be. And that means busy restaurant with happy guests every single time. So I think it's important to fall in love with the process rather than the end goal. Because like you said, like if your end goal is like, I want a Michelin star, and then you win a Michelin star, what's next? And then all of a sudden that burnout hits. And you see it with the best chefs in the world that are on top for so long with 3 stars, and they're like, all right, I'm good.
I was talking about that literally yesterday with another chef about how a lot of chefs get the award, whatever it is that they 3 stars, James Beard, whatever, and then it's like they leave their restaurant shortly after. I'd be curious to like track that.
Exactly.
See how many times that's happened.
How many times?
Yeah. So let's move on to something a little bit lighter, chef.
Okay, cool.
Let's talk hip hop. You're a big hip hop fan.
Big time.
So for people that I'm gonna do my best Nori Drink Champs impersonation. I love watching Drink Champs where he's asking all these hip hop legends like this one or that one. So
yeah.
You're familiar with?
Very familiar. I love that podcast.
So we could drink water, but
yeah.
You're a hip hop head. I'm a hip hop head. I'm going to give you the standard Nori questions. Tupac or DMX?
Pac.
Which album?
Maybe Machiavelli.
Yeah. Okay. Wu-Tang or NWA?
Wu-Tang. Easy.
Okay, so let's get into the Wu-Tang. Ghostface or Raekwon?
Raekwon, because he's a chef.
Yeah, right. Kanye or Pharrell?
Ooh. This has no bearing on how I feel about him as a person, but yeah.
Yep. Okay. Scarface or Ice Cube?
Face.
Scarface doesn't get enough credit.
No.
He's great.
No, he's amazing.
He's definitely Mount Rushmore, especially for Texas.
Texas? Right. Yeah. He's God tier.
Jay-Z or Nas?
Nas.
Okay. Greatest rapper of all time?
Nas, yeah.
Nas.
In my opinion. Yeah. Illmatic is the best hip-hop album, in my opinion.
Yeah?
Yeah.
See, for me, New York State of Mind is the greatest hip-hop song ever written.
Yeah.
I when I think about that, it's like the kid was like 16, 15 when he wrote it, without Google, without Chat GPT,
without any of it.
Just a dictionary, what he knew.
Yeah.
It's like, man, and lyrically, it's still a great song.
I think Memory Lane is probably my favorite off of that album. Really. I just love the story he tells of just like, and like why he does it. And it's just, he was, I mean, he still is like, he's amazing because I think he had a few albums in the middle where like, yeah. And then like with all the King's Disease albums, it's like, man, you are just like coming back hard.
The King's Disease and the Magic albums.
Yeah, the Magic was great too.
Those last 6 albums that he put out, I was
unbelievable.
It was like, he's back.
Unbelievable.
Kendrick or Drake?
Kendrick, easy.
Right. Yeah, that was an easy one.
That was an easy one.
Easy. Mobb Deep or The Lox?
Oh, that's a good one. Damn. Man, I'd probably have to go Lox. That's a tough one, though. That's a tough one.
Chef, this was fun. If you had one chef's PSA out there for the audience listening, what would it be?
For me, I have a quote that I really like. It's, you are the standard that you walk past. And it's something that...
Well, that one's heavy.
Yeah. I mean, the whole meaning behind it was a very heavy reason for the quote, but I think it's one of those quotes that kind of like permeates through life. And, I think it's important that, whether it comes to like what we were talking about, kitchen culture and the way we talk to people and all that. But it's something I was told this as a cook, and it's something I tell cooks, sous chefs and all that I work with. And now it's like, start treating it like it's your restaurant.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go above and beyond of what your pay grade is or whatever. Like, I'm not telling you to do my job, but like start treating it like it's your own. Start these habits now. Would you do that if it was your restaurant, if it was your name on the building? Because when it is yours, you've already instilled the habits and like all the things, and you're just going to like see something and be like, it's okay. So,
right.
You got to set the standards early.
I have a quote. I put this up on Chef's PSA. Run it like you own it makes a lot more sense when you own it.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you're in that position, you actually own it, that quote, well, okay, it hits different.
It hits different
when you actually own it. So, Chef, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at cocinero_DK, and then you can find me at Pasta Bar Tuesday through Saturday.
Chef, it's good having you here.
It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Had a lot of fun.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. Great conversation with Dan Kennedy. If you want to support the show, make sure you leave 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars. Stop what you're doing, leave 5 stars. 5-star podcast. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Holidays are here. Go to chefspsa.com, get some books, Culinary Leadership Fundamentals, Kitchen Art of War. The new one I just wrote, Bad Cooks Everywhere. Get yourself a Just Cook hat. There's a beanie cap now available. And if you want early access to episodes, make sure you become a premium subscriber on Substack and Spotify. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
No Andre in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction. Stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, classes in session.